I found out my best friend had an affair with my wife. At his birthday party, I raised the glass and told everyone the truth.
My name is Victor Beaumont. I'm a 42-year-old architect from Lyon, now living in a quiet suburb outside the city. For 17 years, I believed I had built something solid. A marriage, a home, a circle of friends who felt more like brothers. I was wrong about all of it. It began innocently enough, the way these things always do. My best friend and I had known each other for nearly 2 decades. We met during our university years when we were both young, ambitious, and full of grand ideas about the future. He was the loud one, the charmer who could light up any room. I was the steady one, the planner, the one who remembered birthdays and anniversaries. We complemented each other perfectly, or so I thought. Over the years, we shared holidays, business ideas, late-night conversations about life and love. He was the godfather to my daughter. I helped him choose the ring when he proposed to his wife. My own wife and I had been together since our mid-20s. She was graceful, intelligent, with a laugh that once made me feel like the luckiest man alive. We had built a beautiful life together. Our daughter was 14 now, old enough to sense when something in the house had shifted, but too young to understand the rot beneath the surface. The first cracks appeared 6 months ago. Small things. My wife started working later, citing new projects at the design firm where she worked. She became distant during dinners, her phone always face down, her smiles a fraction too tight. I told myself it was stress. I trusted her. More importantly, I trusted him. Then came the night that changed everything. I was in my study reviewing blueprints when my phone buzzed with an unknown number, a message from his wife. We had never messaged privately before. The text was short. "You need to see this. I'm sorry." Attached were screenshots, conversations, photos, hotel receipts, explicit messages that left no room for doubt. My wife and my best friend had been sleeping together for 4 months. They met when I was away on business trips. They laughed about how easy it was to fool me. They even planned a weekend together while I took our daughter to visit her grandparents. I sat there in the dark for a long time, rereading every word until they burned into my memory. The pain was sharp at first, then it dulled into something colder, something calculated. I didn't scream, I didn't confront. Instead, I saved every piece of evidence and began to plan. His wife and I met in secret 2 days later at a small cafe on the outskirts of town. She looked as broken as I felt. She had suspected for weeks and finally hacked into his cloud to confirm it. We didn't comfort each other with tears or empty promises. We spoke like two people who had both been murdered in the same house and were now deciding what to do with the bodies. She wanted quiet revenge. I wanted something louder. His 40th birthday party was already scheduled for the following weekend. A big celebration at their spacious villa with over 60 guests. Colleagues, old university friends, neighbors, family. The perfect stage. His wife agreed to help me. She forwarded me more evidence, including videos she had recovered. I spent the next few days preparing my words with the same precision I used when drafting important buildings. Every sentence had to land like a hammer. As the days passed, I continued to play the role of the devoted husband and loyal friend. I smiled when my wife kissed my cheek. I laughed at his jokes during our regular Thursday evening drinks. The deception tasted like ash, but it was necessary. I needed them both, relaxed, unsuspecting, basking in their secret triumph. The night of the party arrived. The villa was decorated with strings of warm lights. A live jazz band played softly in the garden, and waiters moved through the crowd with trays of champagne. My wife wore the red dress I had always complimented her on. He greeted me with his usual bear hug, clapping me on the back and calling me his brother. I smiled and handed him an expensive bottle of whiskey I had imported from Scotland. The evening unfolded normally at first. People danced, stories were told, laughter echoed across the terrace. I waited for the right moment, right after the cake had been cut and the speeches were winding down. When the crowd was still warm with alcohol and nostalgia, I stood up and tapped my glass. The title moment came exactly as planned. I raised my glass high, meeting his eyes across the room. My voice was calm, almost warm. "Here's to the man who showed me true friendship means sharing absolutely everything, even your own wife." The words hung in the air like smoke. For 3 full seconds, nothing happened. Then the silence crashed down. Conversations died mid-sentence. Glasses paused halfway to lips. Faces turned from me to him, confusion blooming into shock. His face went pale. My wife's hand flew to her mouth, her eyes wide with horror. His wife stood a few feet away, her expression carefully blank, though I caught the faintest trace of satisfaction in her eyes. I didn't stop there. I continued speaking, my tone still polite, almost conversational. I described how long it had been going on. I mentioned specific dates and places. I quoted some of their more intimate messages word for word. With every sentence, the atmosphere grew heavier. A few guests began quietly gathering their things. Others stared, transfixed by the unfolding disaster. My wife tried to interrupt, her voice trembling. "Victor, please, not here." But I simply smiled at her. "Why not here? You both seem to enjoy doing it behind my back. Now everyone can celebrate your honesty." He stepped forward, his hands raised in a placating gesture, his voice low and desperate. "Mate, let's talk about this privately." I laughed then, a genuine sound that surprised even me. "Privately? Like the hotel rooms you booked while I was trusting you with my family? No. Tonight is your birthday. You deserve to receive every gift you've earned." The tension in the room was electric. Some guests looked embarrassed, others angry, a few even amused in that dark way people sometimes react to public scandals. I could see calculations happening behind their eyes. Who would take sides? Whose career would suffer? Whose marriage would be next? I set my glass down carefully on the nearest table. My hands were steady. For the first time in months, I felt completely in control. This was only the beginning of what I had planned. The silence stretched until it became unbearable. A woman near the dessert table dropped her fork. The clatter echoed like a gunshot. My best friend's face had drained of all color, his birthday smile frozen into a grotesque mask. He looked around desperately, searching for allies, but found only stunned expressions and averted gazes. I kept my voice steady, projecting just enough for the entire garden to hear. 4 months. That's how long you've been taking what wasn't yours. While I was in Brussels finalizing the museum project, you were in room 312 of the Grand Hotel with my wife. While I took our daughter to piano recitals, you sent her messages describing exactly what you wanted to do to her when I was gone. I pulled out my phone, connected it to the projector they had set up for birthday photos, and played the first video his wife had forwarded me. It wasn't graphic in a vulgar sense, but it was damning. The two of them laughing in a car, her hand on his thigh, voices unmistakable as they mocked how Victor never suspects a thing. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Someone muttered, "Mon Dieu." My wife stood there trembling, tears streaming down her face, her elegant red dress suddenly looking like a costume for a play that had gone horribly wrong. "Victor, I'm begging you," she whispered, stepping closer. "Think of our daughter." I met her eyes without flinching. I have thought of her every single day since I learned the truth. She deserves a father who doesn't live in a house of lies. You made your choice when you decided my best friend could give you something I couldn't. He finally found his voice, hoarse and cracking. "This is insane. You're humiliating everyone here because of some misunderstanding." "Misunderstanding?" I laughed again, colder this time. "Your wife showed me the hotel bookings, the lingerie receipts charged to your joint account, the deleted texts you thought you'd erased. She even found the video from last month where you told my wife you loved her more than your own marriage." His wife stepped forward then, her posture straight and dignified. She had remained silent until now, letting me deliver the blow. "It's true," she said simply. "I'm done pretending. The affair ends tonight, in front of everyone who celebrated our so-called perfect lives." The party disintegrated rapidly after that. Guests began leaving in clusters, offering awkward condolences, or simply slipping away into the night. A few of our mutual friends approached me, faces pale, murmuring variations of "I had no idea." One colleague from the firm pulled me aside and quietly said he respected my courage but suggested I seek legal counsel immediately. I nodded politely. I already had. My best friend tried one last desperate move. He grabbed my arm near the bar, his grip tight. "Victor, please, we can fix this. Brothers don't destroy each other like this." I looked down at his hand until he released me. "Brothers don't fuck each other's wives. You taught me tonight that true friendship has no limits." I'm simply returning the lesson. Security, which his wife had quietly arranged earlier, escorted him away from me when he raised his voice. My wife followed him out, sobbing, her heels clicking unevenly on the stone path. I watched them go without satisfaction, only a deep, hollow sense of justice finally served. The villa emptied within 30 minutes. His wife and I remained in the now quiet garden, surrounded by half-empty glasses and abandoned cake. We sat on the edge of the fountain, the jazz band long gone. "You did it," she said softly. "I thought I wanted quiet revenge, but this was necessary." I nodded. "They took our dignity in secret. We returned it in public. We spoke for nearly an hour about next steps. Divorce papers were already prepared by my lawyer. She would file separately. We agreed to co-parent our children with dignity and shield them from the worst details. Our daughter would stay primarily with me. Their son would divide time fairly. There would be no reconciliation attempts, no therapy sessions to salvage what was rotten from the core. Driving home that night, the city lights blurred past my windshield. I replayed the evening in my mind, not with glee, but with the calm clarity of a man who had closed a chapter. The pain was still there, a dull ache beneath my ribs, but it no longer controlled me. I had taken back the narrative. The weeks that followed were difficult but liberating. My wife moved out the next day, her things packed while I was at work. She left a long letter full of excuses and apologies, but I burned it unread. Our daughter cried when we told her the truth in age-appropriate terms, that mommy and daddy would no longer live together because of broken promises. She was angry at first, mostly at me for the public scene, but over time she understood. Children sense betrayal more acutely than we give them credit for. My former best friend lost several key contracts after the story circulated through our professional circles. His reputation as the charming, trustworthy guy evaporated overnight. Last I heard, he and my ex-wife tried to make their affair official, but it crumbled within weeks under the weight of guilt and reality. Shared secrets built on deception rarely survive sunlight. As for me, I threw myself into my work with renewed passion. I redesigned my home, removing every trace of the old life. I started running again, took up painting on weekends, and reconnected with old friends who had drifted away during the comfortable years of my marriage. His wife and I remained in occasional contact, not romantically, but as survivors of the same shipwreck. We had both learned the same brutal lesson. Trust is a fragile thing, easily shattered by those closest to you. 6 months later, I attended another party, a smaller one, celebrating a successful building inauguration I had designed. As I raised my glass for a toast, this time genuine and warm, I realized something profound. Revenge isn't about destroying others completely. It's about refusing to let their betrayal define your ending. I smiled at the crowd of new colleagues and true friends. The man I was before the party, trusting, steady, blind, no longer existed. In his place stood someone wiser, stronger, and finally free. Sometimes the greatest architecture isn't the buildings we design, but the lives we rebuild after they've been burned to the ground. I raised my glass higher that night, not in toast to the past, but to the future I would construct with my own hands.
From the pain, I became stronger. Now I am free and wise.